if there are no other questions, I'm going to move on to the second question we have for our panelists. Okay, given that you all have a different point of view about building mosques and community, the question is whether or why do you think that building mosques has met with such resistance, if not rejection, both in Lower Manhattan and on Staten Island? Are your understandings of rejection and the resistance the same is really the question we want to get at. So, Abe, would you like to start this time?
Sure. I'm sorry, could you read the last part of that because I was jotting something?
Why do you think the plans to build a mosque and an Islamic community center have been met with resistance and rejection, both in Lower Manhattan and Staten Island?
Sure, right. With all due respect to the gentleman sitting 2 seats away from me, I'm not sure that what we're looking at is a question of irrational trauma. Undoubtedly, that's in there. That's in there when any I'm not sure we're looking at a case of irrational post-traumatic stress. When there's any trauma, there's stress to come after, to follow. But the point about supposing that there needs to be a moderate Islam because Islam needs to somehow be corrected because there's something inherently wrong with Islam. We have to face the fact that there is a problem among Muslim leaders in this country. I'm not talking about on the individual level of people of Muslim faith, but the truth is, when you have an imam who refuses to call terrorist groups specifically by name, there's a problem. This is a problem that needs to be discussed in terms of correcting. This is not something that we can brush under the rug in the name of politeness and tolerance. It's something we should not tolerate. So it's very clear to me why there was resistance. I can envision a mosque, and I'm not alone in this. I can envision a mosque, as Royal Correct said in the New Republic, that would make us all proud as Americans. That's not any mosque that Imam Raouf is going to head up. I would oppose a synagogue or a church that said that whose leader said the things he said, and who refused to identify enemies the way he has. So it's easy to talk in vague terms about trauma and irrational pain, but we have the facts very clearly laid out before us. He was asked point blank, are you willing to call Hamas a terrorist organization? And he would not. And I refuse to believe that someone who wants to erect a structure in the interest of healing wounds caused by terrorism would have a problem doing so readily. And I'm clearly not alone. And I think until Muslim leadership in this country works a little harder to convince Americans on this point, there's always going to be resistance. And those who resist will always be criticized. There's no problem when there's a papal visit and the Pope comes to visit and thousands of college kids come out with placards, not insulting a specific church or a specific priest, but with signs saying Christianity is Nazism. No community is going to an uproar. It's considered a wonderful day for freedom of expression in this country. Why is that not the case? I'm all for applying the same standard across the board. I'm not convinced it's happening. That's my answer.
Thank you. Jane?
I think it's really important to correct the record, or at least expand the record here. I have not met Imam Raouf. A member of my staff has interviewed him many times. I will agree, and I said in print, that I think it was really a mistake for him to have left the country this summer, although he was in part on a tour sponsored by our government to talk about Islam throughout the world. But nonetheless, unfortunately, he didn't get the best PR advice. That's what's so important these days, and probably should have been here to answer these charges. So, but I think it's very important to note that this charge that he has not condemned Hamas could be very legitimately said to be taken out of context. It came in one radio interview in the course of a very, very long career. This man has been praised by a great many leaders of the American Jewish community and others for his work in promoting interfaith dialogue and tolerance. In fact, Abe Foxman, the head of the ADL, no liberal, squishy kind of person, he, in an interview with me, said that he thinks that Raouf is a stand-up guy, that he had him on a show and was with him in within his organization. And the truth is that the Imam, I'm just quoting you from something he told our reporter back in May. He said he thought his organization's role is to, and I quote, magnify the voice of those who have condemned and continue to condemn the action of 9/11 and to be part of the rebuilding and part of the interfaith fabric of New York City. And while, as I said, I think it's really a shame that he was not here this summer to respond himself on these accusations of his support of Hamas, his wife, Daisy Khan, who's very involved in Park 51 as well, said that Hamas commits atrocious acts of terror. Iman has condemned, outright condemned, all four forms of terrorism. So why don't we call a truce tonight and say that the record shows that he, and I'm being very generous here, has a mixed view of this. Because certainly there have been many, many more statements that both he and his wife have said condemning Hamas than promoting it. Why do people reject these things? I don't want to ascribe motives to other folks. Our family home is in Philadelphia. There's a mosque about a mile away. I honestly, I just haven't given it any mind. I mean, it's just there. It doesn't bother me. It just exists. But that's me. I'm not going to tell the people of Manhattan or Staten Island or any place else how to feel, and I'm not going to characterize their motives. I think that's really wrong. I just think we really have to work a lot harder towards understanding each other, towards dropping the stereotypes, towards remember that people are innocent until proven guilty, instead of being guilty until proven innocent, and that we have to recognize that every religion, every nationality has people in it who are extreme, who are hateful. Certainly, unfortunately, there are Jews who fall into that category, and there are people of other faiths as well. And we have to strengthen those who work against those kinds of efforts.
So would you say that you are characterizing the resistance or the rejection based on these kind of extreme individuals who seem to stand for the whole, who come to stand for the whole? Is that what we could take away from?
You know, I'm just really not sure I can characterize it all. I think it's a very mixed bag. I think there's a lot of real hurt and fear there, and I think that is fair and legitimate. But I also think that there's a lot of misinformation and demagoguery there.
Thank you.